A small brook flows through much of the town of Manchester by the Sea. You might have heard the name in passing, but where is it exactly? What does it do? And more importantly, why should you care? The brook's given name is Sawmill. It is central to Manchester by the Sea's watershed system. A watershed is simply an area that collects water, moving it from a higher ground to waterways, until, in our case, it reaches the ocean. Most of the time, the watershed works harmoniously, and Sawmill Brook flows along, going unnoticed, until it floods. From the earliest days of Manchester's settlement, Sawmill Brook was an essential part of daily life. It provided water for drinking and cooking. It powered mills used to grind corn for food and to saw timber for the town's furniture-making industry. Water was also drawn from the brook to put out fires. In the 1930s, as a part of the Works Progress Administration, the Central Street Dam was built in order to create an ice rink and a fish pond. Now, as climate change brings longer, stronger storms, the town's infrastructure is at risk. The Central Street tide gate and dam hamper drainage and cause flooding upstream. Plans to remove these barriers and widen the culvert under Central Street are expected to alleviate flooding. Sawmill Brook's winding path begins in a residential neighborhood south of Route 128, in a wooded area called Millet's Swamp. It flows underneath the highway and into Cedar Swamp, a part of the Wilderness Conservation Area. The Wilderness Conservation Area is crucially important as a protected woodland and wetland wildlife habitat. It also serves as a repository for rainwater runoff from higher ground. These swamps serve as huge natural filters, assuring water quality, and also do the massive job of absorbing and slowly releasing the stormwater that otherwise would cause flooding downstream. From here, Sawmill Brook flows east under School Street into Beaver Dam Swamp, and then south under Route 128. The highway's proximity with salt, gas, trash, and other runoff is a constant threat to the brook's water quality. After Mill Street, the brook flows into the Essex County Club Golf Course, where it merges first with the tributary Cat Brook and then with Causeway Brook at Lincoln Street. The golf course, which provides filtration, storage, and slow release of stormwater, lies adjacent to the Lincoln Street Municipal Well, the source of roughly 40% of the town's water supply. The well draws from an aquifer, a large porous layer of rock, gravel, and sand where groundwater collects. In times of low rainfall, this aquifer is supported by the brook. In times of heavy rainfall, the aquifer's excess water rises into the stream beds and is carried off by Sawmill Brook to the sea. At Lincoln Street, the brook enters the developed part of town, where it is most vulnerable to pollutants from yards, playgrounds, and many streets and storm drains. Further on, at Norwood and School Streets, the culverts are restrictive, and there are plans to enlarge them in the next 5 to 10 years to prevent flooding. Just above the School Street crossing, Sawmill Brook hosts a spawning ground of the rare rainbow smelt. In 2002, the Manchester Coastal Stream Team received funding to rebuild the crumbling channel walls to prevent erosion and to minimize silting. Smelt will only lay eggs on rocks that are free of sediment, algae, and silt. The grant also included work to plant native blueberries and other plants, which are now overrun by invasive Japanese knotweed and garlic mustard. Brook trout are also present. Recent studies find that these fish, formerly stocked as game, are now native and breeding in small numbers. As the brook flows past residential backyards, residents can do quite a bit to help it stay healthy. Increasing the number of natural plantings that serve as a buffer can help stop leaves and other yard waste from going into the water. Reducing or eliminating the use of fertilizers and pesticides, which can run into the brook, will also protect fish and wildlife. Having made its way out of the swamps, across the fields, under the streets, and through the town, Sawmill Brook arrives at Central Street Dam. Once the tide gate is removed and the culvert enlarged, Central Pond will become a more natural stream, enhancing passage for rainbow smelt and other fish, and alleviating upstream flooding. There is a proposal to replace and repair the walls in the Central Pond area that are collapsing and allowing too much sediment into the brook. Once restored, the area will feature new retaining walls and marsh grass plantings. The plans may also include stairs or other public pathways for better views of the brook and easier access. Addressing the challenges posed by and to Sawmill Brook is an important function of the Manchester Coastal Stream Team, as it advocates for water quality, habitat stewardship, and sound planning. The team's work on this project, surveys and cleanups, testing, monitoring, and public education, is undertaken in partnership with Salem Sound Coast Watch, the Manchester Essex Conservation Trust, and many town committees. Together, they strive to protect the condition of the brook as it interacts with the town and its citizens. All of us, by understanding the Sawmill Brook watershed and the factors that can affect it, can make better decisions as the town grows and faces the challenges of climate change. In this way, we will recognize and honor the importance to the town of this small brook.